Welcome to DriveCore, the automotive YouTube channel for the masses. I'm Nathan, and today I want to take you back a decade to the 2010s. It was a very interesting decade for sure, but especially for Mazda because this is a 2010 Mazda 3 Sport GS. Now this vehicle just happens to be my mother's vehicle, and she's owned it since brand new. So now, if you do the math, it's 2021. It has now been about 11 years. So today's video review is going to be showing the ins and outs of this vehicle and what makes it a big stepping stone for Mazda. So stay tuned. Now this is not my mother's first Mazda. In fact, in 1993, she purchased a Mazda Protege, the little four-door car with a 5-speed manual. But unfortunately, as our family was starting to grow, she had to regrettably sell that vehicle and get a minivan like most mothers unfortunately have to do. But not all is bad, because fast forward another 10 years and she decides to get this. Now this is a huge step up because not only is it not a minivan, but it's a lot more fun. Now I'm going to be straightforward in saying that at the time I didn't want my mom purchasing a vehicle like this because I thought they closely resembled minivans, and of course minivans are uncool, so why would I want my mom to get something like this? However, this thing is not a minivan, it's a hatchback, and at the time, you know, there wasn't a lot of good choices. You had the Pontiac Vibe, you had the Toyota Matrix, so they weren't very attractive in a sense. But this one I felt was a bit special. If you ask me, I feel like Mazda was kind of the underdog of its time because it wasn't a huge company like Toyota or Honda. You know, it was kind of that smaller, almost shoe-sized company. But that didn't stop it from rising in popularity. With this generation, they sure gave its competitors a run for their money. And I think that's just due because it was different. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't a Honda, it wasn't a Toyota, it wasn't a Pontiac Vibe. It was something unique. And when this generation came out in 2009, it was still kind of different. Now this being a GS model with the added convenience package, it came with standard alloy rims and air conditioning. But this car has one more trick up its sleeve. It has the 2.5 liter non-Skyactiv engine, giving it about 20 more horsepower than the standard base model 2 liter. Giving a grand total of 167 horsepower and 168 pound-feet of torque. When this car was first released, a lot of critics said that the 2.5 liter engine wasn't worth the added extra horsepower and that taking that sacrifice in fuel economy wasn't worth it either. However, I beg to differ. Because in around town you do notice the power, for sure. You know, it's not going to beat a V8 Mustang off the line, but it's not bad for a little 4-cylinder engine. Now, some of you may be shocked to know this, but this is actually a 5-speed automatic that I have here today with the manual Triptronic mode, that giving you the ability to shift through the gears manually 1 through 5. But some of you die-hard manual fans are probably crying right now thinking, oh, that's probably much better with a manual. And that may be true, but it could be a lot worse, as at the time, a lot of the competition was starting to move towards CVTs. So Mazda was one of the last true manufacturers to have a regular automatic transmission, so be grateful. I want to take a moment to talk about this interior and saying that it's not as upscale as the 3rd generation, but it was definitely a step in the right direction nonetheless. You know, you don't have as many soft touch materials like on the upper doors, but you have it on the lower arms and the center console right here, and actually even a little bit on the dash as well. But that's to say, that's all you really need. Let's be honest, you don't need it everywhere because this is not a luxury vehicle. Speaking of interior design here, the dash is quite unique. It's actually almost the size of my dining room table. And also the fact that it has this really weird design to it where it has a bunch of like layers almost. It's almost like an onion where you have like one layer, another layer, and it kind of looks a bit mishmashed, but yet it kind of ties in well. So again, unique, but you know, just kind of like, what were they doing here? They couldn't make up their mind at what materials they wanted to use, so they just kind of added a bunch together, and it worked. So another little thing I want to talk about for a moment is just the seats in the vehicle. Now, they're not, you know, fancy sports seats, but they do hug you pretty well in the corners for what they are. But the one thing I found, especially after driving this vehicle for many years off and on, especially for long distance trips as well, is that your butt does get a little sore. And that is to be expected after sitting in a vehicle for a long period of time, but for almost 2 hours, I'm kind of surprised by that, because most other vehicles that I've driven, your butt doesn't hurt, especially after 2 hours, maybe 5 hours, but not 2. And you knew I was going to mention it at some point, so I figured I'd just mention it and get it out of the way, is the road noise. Of course, it being a Mazda, they all suffer from a little bit of road noise, especially around this time period. Now they're almost virtually quiet, but around this generation, a lot of Mazdas suffered from the dreaded road noise and tire noise that you would hear. And it's not horrible, but if you don't like road noise at all, you want, let's say, a Lexus, then buy a Lexus. This is a Mazda, 2 different types of vehicles. Overall, this interior feels rather spacious. You feel the roominess. Actually, in some ways, I almost feel like it was more spacious than my 3rd generation Mazda 3. And I think that's just because maybe everything was a bit dark. I don't know to say. Like, again, this interior is all black too. Yet I feel like I have more room in here. Well, except for the back seats, because let's face it, every generation of the Mazda 3 seems to have this issue where there's a limited amount of leg space. But what I can say is that you do have some nice amenities back here, such as a pocket on the passenger seat. You have a pocket here where you can hold your drinks, like this one on the door. And you also have cup holders built into the center armrest. But it doesn't stop there. You also have 2 adjustable headrests back here, and also a dome light control up above. Now, getting in and out of the back seat is kind of a different story, because when you get out, you do feel it's a bit tight, but that's also because of the seat adjustments and this pillar right here. Also, the fact that the vehicle is a bit lower to the ground. Looking from the outside of this vehicle, you think it's not that huge, but it's kind of misleading, because as soon as you open up the trunk space here, it's pretty standard, but you think, oh, Nathan, that's nothing special. But as soon as you fold down the split folding rear seats and you remove this cargo shelf here, there's actually quite a bit of room, actually quite a bit of height as well, so it makes it that much better. Now, over the years, I've moved around quite a bit, and I've had to use this as the vehicle of choice. Now, you think, yes, a pickup truck would be more ideal, but this vehicle was quite surprising, actually, because I was able to fit many things like 2x4x8 sheets of styrofoam, and heck, even 2 toilets side by side. I feel like Mazda was very nice in this generation. They gave you extra little things that, you wouldn't expect in a vehicle of this price range. And that being this little overhead ambient light. It's pretty cool. It comes on at night, it lights up all the controls around the gearbox. And you'd find that mostly like in its German rivals, but if you get it here, I don't know why, but it's cool, I won't complain. And then one thing I'm a little bit disappointed about, not with this generation, but as I mentioned in my other Mazda review, my 2018, is that they took away the glove box light, but yet you have it here. Going through the twisties right now, it's actually pretty fun. I'm on this backcountry road, and it reminds me of why Mazda is unique from everybody else. It's not a Corolla or anything else. It's its own thing, and no one can copy that. No one can make a vehicle that kind of makes it interesting to drive, especially for this price too. Like, you have to think about when this vehicle came out, a lot of vehicles, the market wasn't as flooded, but now it's just, you have so much competition, and then you have all the crossovers and all that nonsense. And it's just, this vehicle was very special. It was special in its own right, and I think it is today too. I want to talk about the elephant in the room for a second here, and saying that the looks of this generation of the Mazda 3 were questionable for some. Some people thought it was a little bit too happy, but then some others thought it was just kind of understyled. I don't know, personally, I think it's all right. Let's just face it, it's just that whole time period of Mazda, they had the happy smile looking vehicle. Some people even called it the clown car. In my honest opinion, I feel that the hatchback version of this vehicle was a lot better. The sedan, I don't know. I'm kind of questionable on that one, because I feel like it was just not as attractive for some reason. But so the hatchback, definitely. Now, this being a 11-year-old vehicle, it still drives just fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It handles just as well as it did, and it still shifts as well as it did out of the factory. Now, my mom's only had to do basic maintenance to this vehicle, nothing, no major repairs. She's never had any breakdowns. Yeah, she's had a couple flat tires, but nothing unexpected with this vehicle. There's no unexpected surprises or costs. You know, it's been a nice vehicle for her, and honestly, I just don't get why you wouldn't want something like this. Overall, the driving experience is great in this vehicle. You know, I can't complain too much. Yeah, I know there was road noise, and you know, it's not as upscale as the newer ones. That's nothing to really complain about, especially in terms of the drive, because it still drives like a Mazda should. And that is handles well and is somewhat fuel efficient and all that other good stuff that makes it a true Mazda. And you know, you have to think about this generation. This generation was not as well known as the newer ones now. Mazda was still trying to establish itself in the compact car segment, and when you have such tight competition, and even to this day, it makes it a struggle. And I just feel like that's what makes Mazda separate from everybody else, is that they don't make every other car that's like in the segment. They don't make the boring appliance. They make something that's actually fun and that you want to daily drive and actually maybe even go down a back road. They don't have that boringness to them that most cars do today. And I'm lost for words really, because it's so unique. And I feel like cars like this are starting to disappear now, and they're becoming more and more drone-like, and even the newer Mazdas I feel like are starting to kind of take a different turn as well. Love it or hate it, this was the stepping stone for Mazda in order to become what it is today, and that is a well-known vehicle. This second-gen Mazda 3 may have not been the nicest looking or, you know, the highest of quality that Mazda is known for now. However, it doesn't prove that it's not as been reliable, because for my mom, who's owned it for now 11 years, it's been probably the most reliable vehicle she's ever owned. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's car review, and if you liked it, be sure to hit the thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more automotive reviews such as this. And also, we are on Instagram, so be sure to check us out there as well at DriveCore21. Until next time, take care. Bye now.